Dear students, today we are going to discuss the poem Elegy written in a country churchyard, written by Thomas Gray. We know that an elegy is a poem which is written on the death of some friend or relative or some near and dear one. It's a kind of lamentation, and the elegy written in a country churchyard was written or meditated in the churchyard at Stoke Poges, where Grace's mother and aunt resided after his father's death. In this poem, Grace, the singer of the humble, poor, and neglected folk of the village. Now I am going to explain the poem stanza wise. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day, the loving herd wind slowly over the lea. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight, and all the air a solemn still holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinkling lull the distant folds. Save that from yonder ivy mantled tower the moping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near the sacred bower molest her ancient solitary reign. In these stanzas, we come to know we come to know that Gray describes the silent atmosphere, and he describes some uh, sounds which can be heard during this time. The ringing of the evening bell marks the close of the day, and the sheep walk slowly in a winding course over the pasture land, producing their natural sounds. The farmer is returning home with a heavy step, tired of the day's work. The darkness of the night is descending upon the world, and I find myself quite alone. The fields and other sights which were dimly visible in the twilight are now becoming invisible to the eyes. The air is full of silence and solemnity. The only audible sounds are the dull humming sound of the beetle which is flying about in circles, and the tinkling of bells around the necks of sheep who are slowly falling asleep in their distant folds. Another sound that can be heard is the occasional hooting of the gloomy and lonely owl, which cries whenever it is disturbed by some unfriendly creature, as if the owl were complaining to the moon about undue interference with his privacy in the church tower, where it has always been an undisputed monarch. Beneath those rugged elms that yew trees shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow shell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. The breezy call of incense breathing mourn, the swallow twittering from the straw built shed, the cock's shrill clarion or the echoing horn, no more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, or busy housewife ply her evening care. No children run to lisp their sire's return, or climb his knees the envied kiss to share. Oft did the harvest to their sickle yield, their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. How jocund did they drive their team afield, how bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. In these poems, in these lines, the poet says that under the elm trees, with their rough trunks and in the shadow of the huge yew tree, in the churchyard are many grass covered graves containing the bodies of the rustic ancestors of this village. Each dead man lies in his narrow grave in eternal sleep, his body turned to dust. Neither the call of the morning breeze laden with sweet smells, nor the twittering of a swallow from the mud and straw shed, nor the loud and shrill crowing of the cock serving as a beagle, nor the echoing horn of the huntsman will ever awaken these dead men from their humble graves. They will no more warm themselves before the bright fire burning in the fireplaces in their homes. No housewives will be busy in their evening duties to make them comfortable and to attend to their needs. They will no longer return home to be greeted by their children speaking in an imperfect, childish manner. No more will their children climb to their knees and compete with one another in receiving the paternal kiss. Often did these men reap the harvest with their sickles, often did the extremely hard soil yield to their plough with which they furrowed the earth. How cheerful they used to drive to the fields their teams of horses or oxen, harnessed together. How they used to cut down the trees with powerful blows from their axes. Now we come to the next stanzas. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur hear with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor. The poet in this line says that let not ambitious persons belittle the useful labors of these men, their simple pleasures, and their unknown existence. Let not the grand people listen to the brief and humble story of these poor men's lives with a scornful smile. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, awaits alike the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. Here, the poet tells about a universal truth, and he says that persons who are proud of their ancient and high descent, persons who make a display of their authority, persons who possess beauty or good looks, and persons who enjoy all the pleasures that wealth can buy, all these will one day fall victims to death, which cannot be avoided. All the spectacular exploits of a man or his military conquests must ultimately lead him to death. Nor you, nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory over their tomb no trophies raise, where through the long drawn aisle and fretted vault the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull, cold ear of death? In these lines, poet says that he addresses the proud people and says, "O you proud people, you should not blame these humble men who lie buried in their graves here. If their friends or relatives did not erect any statues or other memorials along the long corridor of the church, under the arched and beautifully carved ceiling, which echoes the high sounding sacred music of the choir. No matter how vividly a dead man's life may be depicted on an urn, or how lifelike the statue of a dead man may be, it is impossible to bring back the departed soul to its body. Tributes paid to a dead man will not in the least stir his lifeless body, and words of praise will not be heard by his deaf ears." So it is enough for this video. In another video, we will discuss the remaining part of the poem. Thanks for listening.